Hi again. This is Melissa Teitelbaum. I use the pronouns she and her. I'm doing my bachelor's of social work at Ryerson University, and I'm a placement student for a safer space. So today I'm going to be talking about specific skills that are taught by behavioral activation in the treatment of depression. Just a small content warning, there will be mentions of depression and suicidality throughout this presentation. So first of all, what is depression? Depression is experienced by at least 1 in 10 people throughout their lifetime. It has an effect on thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and typically appears for the first time from late teens to mid-20s. Possible symptoms of depression, among others, are low mood, loss of interest or pleasure, changes in appetite, decreased concentration, difficulty making decisions, increased irritability, difficulty sleeping, fatigue, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, and thoughts of death or suicide. So to be diagnosed with depression, these symptoms must cause severe distress to the individual and have lasted for at least 2 weeks. It's also important to note that depression is not the same as sadness or grief, as grief does not have the same effect on a person's self-esteem. The risk factors for depression are a family history of depression, poverty, unemployment, social isolation, and stressful life events. It can also be a side effect of other medical conditions such as thyroid issues, and possible treatments include psychotherapy through cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, which involves identifying and changing thoughts and behaviors that cause distress to the individual, as well as medication. One of the most used ones for depression is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI, which increase levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin in the brain. And these are most effective when used to treat severe depression and can also be used in conjunction with psychotherapy. So behavioral activation is an alternative to CBT in dealing with depression. And it works by shifting away from thoughts and feelings and instead focusing on the individual's behavior and environment. So people experiencing depression do not seem to get enough positive reinforcement, and the behaviors they engage in to avoid negative feelings, for example, social withdrawal, only provide temporary relief but result in worsening symptoms. So behavioral activation works to increase the amount of positive reinforcement experienced by the person and decrease behavioral patterns that contribute to worsening symptoms of depression. The point is to replace behaviors that give temporary relief but make depression worse long-term with positive behaviors that lead to long-term relief from depression. So in essence, negative reinforcement is replaced with positive reinforcement. It can be hard to implement because while it can offer relief in the short term, in the long term, it will take time and the individual will still need to cope with their suffering in the short term. So it can be difficult for somebody who is suffering in the present to accept that they must complete actions that will not offer any immediate relief. So this can lead to what is the point type of thinking. So this is very understandable and one of many factors that makes the treatment of depression so complex. So an effective therapist will have to empathize with an individual's reasons for engaging in behaviors that offer relief in the short term but worsen symptoms in the long term. So for example, a person suffering from depression may spend most of their day in bed because this offers them more temporary comfort than going out and facing their day. The therapist knows that waking up earlier logically may have positive long-term effects on their mental health, though this would not necessarily offer any immediate relief. Feelings of guilt and shame are a significant part of depression, so simply telling someone that they must trade an unhealthy behavior for a healthier one has the potential to make them feel worse without giving them any incentive to try something new. So instead, the therapist is better off letting them the person know that they understand why they want to sleep all day, and telling them that they know it will be hard and not seem to make sense to change this behavior, and then offer up any alternatives. So ultimately, it has to be the choice of the individual whether or not they feel that making these changes to their behavior makes any sense to them. So making sense of why behaviors should be changed can be done by showing how exactly they are causing an increase in symptoms of depression. So this diagram gives a good example of like how these behaviors can have circular effects. So here the negative behavior is sleeping until noon nearly every day to avoid stress and negative feelings. The immediate consequences of this may be that the person will miss breakfast, not have time to exercise, and not have time for their daily responsibilities. The response to these consequences would be increased stress due to not addressing their responsibilities, feeling guilty about like their health not being great due to like not getting enough physical activity, and maybe even reduced energy due to inadequate diet, like not eating breakfast. So the result of that will be just the reinforcement of the behaviors that started off this whole cycle. So not having enough energy will lead to wanting to sleep until noon again more easily. So once these behavior patterns have been identified, it's time to come up with positive replacement behaviors that are both easy and rewarding. So this worksheet shows, this worksheet can be used to brainstorm a list of positive activities and rate them based on their level of ease and reward, with 1 being the most difficult or least rewarding, and 10 being least difficult, most rewarding. So in the example provided here, going for a walk is rated a 9 in terms of ease, so it's considered pretty easy to accomplish, and given a 6 in reward, so it's only rewarding to a moderate degree. So once you fill out this worksheet with examples of activities, you can choose which ones are feasible at the moment based on how much you think you can reasonably accomplish. All right, and once you have chosen an activity to do, it's best to make a specific plan about how and when you will do it. So this includes thinking of possible obstacles to doing the activity. So in the walk example, it's helpful to think of an alternate plan, such as going to the gym instead if it happens to be raining when you plan to go outside. It's also helpful to plan out all of the specifics. So what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you'll remember, etc. So the what will be taking a walk, the when can be Thursday at 7:00 p.m. right after dinner. And the how you'll remember can be setting an alarm on your phone. It can also be helpful to enlist social support, such as from a friend or family member, to encourage you. And they can even come with you to do the things that you're trying to do. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much.